Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order for the regular meeting of the Common Council, Tuesday, August 25th, 6:30 p.m., and we'll begin with roll call and Pledge of Allegiance.
Seth?
Here.
AJ?
Here.
Todd Kirking?
Here.
Kyle?
Here.
Todd Spaeth?
Here.
Cindy?
Here.
John?
Here.
Tanya?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
And Krista?
Here. I pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2, approval of the August 18th, 2026 regular council minutes.
This is Tanya. I'll move approval. Oh, but I do have a question.
Sure.
AJ, second.
So we have a motion and a second. Tanya, question?
Just for a point of clarification on number 9, it says we were approved for the Vibrant Spaces grant, and there was some confusion on this last time. And I just, were we approved? And if so, great. And if not, if it was a pre-approval or I just want it worded correctly. So if you're comfortable with what's in here.
We sent in a pre-app. They responded that it had been, we are welcome to send in the application, which pretty much usually means you've got it. And then then they would have held the 50,000 for us. Like I said, now the audit, when it's done, they'll hold that 50 for us. So no, we're not approved officially yet.
Because you
Should that
have
be,
to have council approval to.
Oh,
be
yeah, we have to have a
approved.
resolution, and that's planned. for
should that
next-
say pre-approved?
I think
We are
that would be
pre-approved.
clearer. That's all. Okay, thanks. That's it.
So we'll update that to say pre-approved, and we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, council announcements. Does anybody have anything to share?
This is Steve. Happy first day of school. Let's go.
That was what I was going to share.
Waiting on this
Good.
one.
Anyone else have anything? All right, then we will move forward. So we have, we're going to go into the first period for public comment. If you have just come in, there is a clipboard going around with a pen, and there are 3 public comment periods tonight. This first period for public comment is going to be for items 5 through 13 on the agenda. So if you want to make any comments on any of those items, this first period is the time to come up and make your statement. If you are here to speak on item 14, which is the public school tax bill transparency, or on the presentation on the resolution opposing the Maribel 765 kilovolt project, there are 2 different boxes on there with those agenda items on there. So feel free to sign up ahead of time. If you don't sign up, that doesn't mean that you can't speak. It's just we'll go in order of who's on the list and then add people in. So the first period for public comment, if you want to make a public comment either online or in person, you will come up to the podium and state your name, your address, and you'll have 3 minutes for comment. And Sarah, if anybody is online and wants to make a public comment, raise your hand and she will help you unmute.
Aaron Parker, Lincoln Avenue. I have 2 comments. One is at the public safety meeting earlier, it was stated that the old City Hall property is too small for a building. I'd just like to point out that of the historic buildings in downtown that wouldn't fit on that site, there are only 3, the Opera House, the Fortney, and the Temple Theater. All the rest of the buildings in downtown would fit on that property. If you want what won't fit on the property, a Walmart won't fit, A McDonald's with a drive-through won't fit, and I think that's for the better. My other comment is, as part of the comprehensive plan, the city of Viroqua undertook a separate historic preservation plan. Now that the plan has been approved, we can begin the long work of shaping and building a future that also recognizes our history. Jason Tisch, the senior officer at the State Historic Preservation Office, who incidentally nominated the city of Viroqua for the Excellence as Best Historic Preservation Commission in the nation, for which we were selected, has written to Cindy Hubbard and me saying, quote, "If the city would like to apply for a grant to do a full survey of the city, I would encourage it. There was a reconnaissance survey done in 2001, but it looks like it was just a windshield survey with minimum research, and we like to see surveys updated every 25 years. I endorse his recommendation. Historic preservation in the U.S. is a very recent thing. It was begun in response to the demolition of New York City's Pennsylvania Station in the late 1960s. I've been involved with historic preservation for nearly 50 years. All the work that I've been involved with has had the effect of saving or preserving or restoring or sensitively renovating notable historic structures and or places. Preserving these places allows people to experience these places with their own senses. That experience places them in space and time and offers insight into whom we are and the society of which we are a part. In order to actually know what places and structures are of value, the city must undertake a thoughtful, well-measured, and informed historical survey of the city. In that way, we will be able to protect our heritage and be better able to access our own local history. If we don't do so, we will be we'll be making decisions based on the economic and political pressures of the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Chuck Driscoll, 609 South Rock Avenue. The comment just made refers to the possibility that we have as a council and as a community to consider the next 20 years in terms of the comprehensive plan that's been approved. And I think as we consider the next 20 years, we have to think strategically in the moment that we're in right now. And that means having a long-term perspective on what the corner lot represents in terms of the aesthetic value of green space versus the possibility of using that land for income and tax revenue going forward. Having said that, there are some safety issues, I think, that haven't been brought up. One being the amount of diesel exhaust that happens on that corner every day. And we say young people shouldn't be in that park, but we have a very mobile young generation now with the scooters and electric bikes. And I see them all the time down there in that corner. And they're exposed to the diesel exhaust. They're carcinogenic and dangerous. And I think we need to take consideration of the air quality in that location. Beyond that, I'd like you to consider, if we're going to commit to the park, that we have a hard and fast number of the cost, which I haven't seen yet. So I don't like going into open-ended projects where we don't know what the final cost is going to be. And I would encourage you to get a final number before you make your final decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. there anybody online that would like to make a public comment? If you do, you can unmute or raise your hand. Okay. So that is the end of first period for public comment. We'll move to item 5, review and approval of alcohol agent change for Aldi, and that's coming from public safety.
Okay, Public Safety just met tonight and there was a change with the agent for the alcohol for Aldi. The name of the new agent is Andrew Van Alstine. The reason that they're making this change is that the previous agent that they did have had moved to another location. All background checks and stuff have come through, so Public Safety sent it forward with their approval, just looking for your guys' approval to change this on their license.
I'll make a motion to approve the alcohol agent change for Aldi.
Kyle, I'll second it.
Motion by Tanya, second by Kyle. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Hey.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, discussion with possible action on Class A beer license for Kickapoo Hospitality LLC, doing business as American, from Public Safety.
Again, this was at Public Safety this evening. This is a license that they've had in the past at the American when it was Vernon Inn. They want to be able to serve beer basically on a to-go basis. It's kind of like if you went to Quick Trip and whatever and wanted to pick up a beer. If you're at a hotel, some hotels have this. The alcohol would be stored in a locked laundry and storage room, and it would be purchased at the front desk if you're at the hotel. So everything is in order in regards to their agent already has a license. Public Safety approved forwarding this to you with their approval. So I'm just looking for your approval to move forward with this license application.
Make approval to approve the Class A beer license for Kickapoo Hospitality LLC.
Steve, I'll second.
Motion by Tanya, second by Steve. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, operator license approvals from Public Safety.
Okay, I have several of them for Walgreens. I'm just going to state their names. So Zechariah Borden, Deborah Shepard, Maya Campbell, Rebecca Nelson, Debbie Keylance, and Stephen Wedwick. And then Gassers has Kendra Volden. Pizza Hut has Michael Baker. Andrew Van Alstine for Aldi. All of these have gone through their background checks. I have one that came in today for Quick Trip South for Carol Fletcher. So if you approve these, it would be all pending the background checks. All of them other than the last one has been approved, but you can just make it as making sure that all of them have been done if you so choose to approve.
This is Tanya. I'll recommend or make a motion to approve operator license approvals pending completed background checks.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, review and approval of changes to the fire ordinance, Public Safety. And this is the first reading.
All right, so last month I brought it to Public Safety to make a change in our ordinance to go from 8 fire officers to 9 fire officers. And the reason for that is as we grow and continue the workload continues to grow, that we want to be able to spread out that amongst more people. Josh now is on full-time, obviously, as a fire captain, and so we're looking to replace him as far as his previous position, but we would like to also add another. So that was the main reason for bringing the ordinance in front of them in the first place. As George and Steph went through it, they determined that if we're going to make one change, we might as well make any other obvious changes to the ordinance that that needs some adjustments, either be it punctuation, capitalization, better way to word it. They went through all that. But the main change is, again, that going from 8 fire officers to 9 fire officers. As far as budget, I could talk about that a little bit. As far as budget, it won't affect it a lot because we're still only covering a certain amount of weekends, those types of things. And then obviously Josh is not getting that that stipend or whatever. So, you know, we can move that to a different location. So the benefits definitely outweigh the minimal costs that we may see. The other changes, I guess, that I want to bring up is it three, number 3 on there? It talked about where the firefighters had to live, and state ordinance or state law was put into place quite a few years ago now, of where it limited the ability for the city, in this case, to how much they could limit that piece of it where they had to live. So George adjusted that to make it make more sense, and it puts it more on the fire chief to determine what works for the city when we're hiring and working through that, or whatever, what our response needs are, what their position might be with the department, and so on and so forth. So the other pieces, it did talk about the fire chief and the assistant chief. So that's section C there. And that used to require being within 2 miles, both day and night, majority of their time, so on and so forth. So again, completely opposite of what the state law said you could do. So he changed it to fit what that state law allows. So again, changes mainly due to updates, and then obviously that 8 to 9. So questions, thoughts, concerns?
I'd second that.
Push your button too, John.
They add that to the motion.
Okay, I'll waive the second reading.
I'd second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just appreciate that you're getting this updated. It's important to update ordinances. And we've got-
When you can, because.
Yeah, we got,
All right, all in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's
Thank
going to
you.
be ordinance 26 OR 002.
Thank you, Lori. We'll move on to item 9, review and approval of pay request number 10 for Hanson Farm Project Public Works.
Okay. So we're looking at a current payment for this pay request of $501,818.88. There's a lot of stuff all over the place. They're just finishing up a lot of what's making it look like a new area to be. So a lot of road work, curb and gutter, and finishing up some of the loose ends, so to speak, of things that weren't done before, like some sanitary sewer televising, some stormwater pipe. Yeah, I'm trying to be concise. So if anybody has anything that they want to ask about, please do, but everything's making sense. We did have a few things where like we have a certain category that repeats itself throughout the pay request. And so some of those, like, for example, is this number 74 is a good one where it actually should have been distributed better throughout those other ones. But we've done the math and recorded it, and they are on par for what they should be using. So that's about it, unless anybody has specific questions. This did get approved at Public Works and brought forward.
I'll make a motion. We approve the Hanson Farm Project pay request number 10
Correct.
for $501,810. And is that 88 cents?
Correct, yeah, sorry. So
Todd, I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Can we please have a roll call?
Todd Spaeth,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
and Kyle.
Aye.
Moving on to item 10, review and approval of pay request number 9 for Center Avenue Project from Public Works.
I will say that we finally had the contract from Princeton show up today. The best news I've heard in months, so I was very happy. I don't know that the poor gentleman was like, I kept saying, I'm so glad you're here. It's like, oh, but everybody's sympathetic and things should be really moving quickly now. Nonetheless, current payment due is $309,264.71. And this pay request is got items all over the place because as you can see, things are happening all over the place. We're having some road stuff being built. We've got a lot of curb and gutter going on, but they're still digging water mains. So this reflects that. We also have our stored materials. So you always see this odd number in the corner here where we have change order 1, which is actually our stored materials amount. And then a deduction, that just means that we've already paid the materials, now they've used them, and instead of like that, the price of the pad, the cost of the materials in it, and so now it's just gonna reduce all that top number is 0. So everything's looking good for yourself. And so coming towards public works, we'll up, you see that a little better.
This is Todd. I move approval for pay request number 9 for the Center Avenue project for $309,264.71.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Sarah, thank you for managing all those moving parts.
Oh, and I apologize. I just got a note that I did not press my button.
All right. Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
and Todd Spath.
Aye.
Item 11, review and approval of change order number 9, the Viroqua Welcome Center.
Yeah, I can take that one.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yep. If you want to.
Yes.
It's specific to an extension of time for the sake of final decisions on a series of details for sake of completion. Amongst these are details of a list of owner-provided contractor to install items. In other words, we hadn't ordered the bathroom fixtures yet. That's what that's about. So we were waiting to make sure that we had the funds and everything was, in line that way. So now we will order them promptly. So that's big, the substantial completion date. You need to have the bathrooms ADA compliant, the building ADA compliant. So that was the big holdup. Yeah, it's very exciting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the change order number 9 for the Viroqua Welcome Center.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Do we need a roll call and a change order for that? If it's not,
There's no money involved in this. This is just changing, so you don't. need to-
yeah. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 12, discussion with possible action on the revised agreement with Town and Country for survey work from Public Works.
Okay, so you have all seen this before. Previously, what was different is this line here where it said the sanitary sewer survey that I would be doing the survey work, which would save us $6,000, which is absolutely wonderful when I have the available time. But there's been a few things coming forward that I'm really wanting to get this interceptor study done sooner than later. And I don't want to be the reason it's not getting done because I have lots of other things to do. So I'll be doing surveying, but maybe for the park and not for the sewer. So this is actually was approved at Public Works. And at that time, the work was just being done that day. So this is in retrospect here, but the contract amount is going to go up by that 6,000. So that was this 23,500. So looking for approval to approve that, even though it's already done.
Okay, make a motion, we approve the Town and Country revised agreement for survey work for, what was it?
It would be like an
6,000.
additional 6,000
Additional 6,000.
on that, yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion by Cindy, second by Kyle. All in favor, actually, we need a roll call for that. Thank you, Lori.
John,
Aye.
Tanya,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
and Cindy.
Aye.
Item 13, discussion with possible action on Old City Hall site plan from Public Safety.
Okay. I realized last week that I did not do a good job, I think, of explaining how we got where we are now. So I don't think we need to go over the history of the site unless anybody wants us to. I think we all are well aware of the old city hall why it had to be torn down. We tried to RFP to get the building fixed, but we got one person and we weren't comfortable or satisfied that that would solve the situation. So as Todd Spaeth mentioned last week, we took RFP out for the site and got no one. When HPC designated it as a local, or request nominated it to be designated as a local site, they suggested it be a park because of the historic significance of it and because it could be a gateway, an entrance to our historic downtown. So that was what happened there. WEDC, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, they gave us a landscape designer or architect to work with. I think he was officially a landscape designer, I'm not sure. We formed a design team, which you've seen all those names before. We had a wide variety, library, chamber, tourism, historical society.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to.
Yeah, that's okay. So you saw that. I don't want to go over everything I covered. And that gave us a good idea of things that would work, wouldn't work, and kind of an idea of the budget. Then we got busy with the comp plan 2025, and pretty much took it to the end of the year. Then we heard that Vibrant Spaces had money left over. And so in February of 2026, we put a pre-app in for that Vibrant Spaces grant based on that old concept plan. Mark Tallman, the La Crosse Regional Director of Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, got back to Nate and I and said that it's a great location for it. This is what the kind of thing we're looking for, but there are some things we need to see in order for it to qualify to get the Vibrant Spaces grant. And being that they're the Wisconsin Economic Development, they want to see something put there that's going to lead to more economic development or help our economy, right? And the idea was that this is a spot that can be the entrance, like I said, to our downtown. I wanted to point out that safety is always a concern in our mind, and the cost was always a concern in our mind as we met with our landscape architect. We did interview 3 different architects for the plan. They were people that had done park and rec planning. So that's how we happened to pick those 3 people that had been recommended by Cale. I believe Cale had heard of them and knew of them. And Cale's going to chime in when he feels the need to. And then also Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation does know Viroqua. I wanted to point that out. And they are very familiar with that corner and are interested in what goes on there. So we worked with Blake Thiessen. I think that's how you pronounce it, or Thiessen. Now I can't remember which it was. If you want to go to, the site, the concept plan, please. Well, I don't know if I need to go over this again. Historic preservation, we wanted to point out the historic site with interpretive signs that can be changed so that it's not going to be the same history forever. It's going to be, other people can put artwork in, or they can put, the Historical Society can put stuff in there. It's a library. It's open-ended. Tourism, because there'll be wayfinding signage. Chad Burris mentioned to me that when they go to a town, they often stop at places like this, kind of get a feeling for, where should I go from here kind of thing. And this would point them to the Welcome Center, would point them to the library and point them to our historic downtown, of course. It would serve as a gateway to the historic downtown by some of the things I'm going to mention, and definitely is going to make the site more beautiful than it is now, beautification, which definitely helps when they come into town and their first impression, would be something really attractive rather than this place that kind of looks neglected. And then the promotion, again, is going to be promoting downtown businesses, as I'm going to explain soon. Casual community gathering space, art, as I mentioned, lighting is the bollard lights, picnic tables, walkways, shade. So those are the kind of things that they wanted to see also. As far as how is it going to help the economy develop? They want to see programming, and I made the mistake last week of talking about events, and you're conjuring up, hundreds of people, and that's not what this is about. This is about programs where a business can come down there, and we'd have to pick, decide when is a good day to do it, when it is a good time to do it, when is that all things that can be decided. But they would be able to bring something that they have, that they sell or that they make. Mark Tallman of WEDC recommended Utopia. He said they could show us how they spin yarn, or, because they do a lot of stuff. And they could say, and if you like this, there's a whole bunch more yarn up at our store. That's the idea, is to get people to go into the stores uptown. So that's how it would help the economy and tourists. Of course, we want to encourage tourists to stay the night. So that's heads in beds kind of a thing. So I think that is the big thing. So year-round programming is what they want to see. There's no definite number that I've seen that says you have to do so many. It's just that we have to make the effort to do something to bring people to our downtown. It's part of it. Let's see, gateway address, see how things I mentioned, the plan itself. You could go to that now. Oh, you could also show well, let's talk about this first. Yeah, I think that we talked, the only thing, I think he changed the holiday tree. I think it was, AJ suggested it be moved up farther so it would be more visible from all directions. Chad Burris recommended that the 2 shade trees on the east end, first we got to make sure they're in far enough so they're not any kind of a visual problem. But also our arborist, Wyatt Oldham, recommended river birch. But river birch you can definitely see through, and Chad thought it might be better to have a tree that you can't see through so much, like a pine tree I mentioned at our last meeting, or at the public safety, where you could have branches all the way to the ground. But these are things that can be talked about, can be decided. We're going to do the flower pots there as another barrier, the berm, 3 to 3.5 feet high in the middle, and then it goes down with aspen, and that also would provide a barrier. Historic marker, I picture the upper right one there to be Moses Decker, yeah. But it'd be facing in so that people aren't trying to read it as they drive by. We're trying to think of all the safety measures we can. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Kale?
No, I think you're spot on right now.
And we're taking people in. That's another thing. These sidewalks take people in, they get them away from the corner in the street and the business, with the picnic tables in there and the benches and things like that. Food truck, they would have to make a reservation and they could be charged to use it. It wouldn't be just free for all. Does anybody have any questions about things like that? Like I said, safety and cost were what we definitely had in mind as we were doing this. What could we afford and what would be safe at that spot?
Yeah, like Cindy had mentioned, I think everybody's kind of thinking special events. This park is not special events. This is more of a passive park with a few small tables and probably a few small events to get people to the main street. So again, don't think of the Great Lawn as we're going to have a concert there and pack everybody in on the Great Lawn and listen to a concert. That's not what we're going for. It's more passive with small tables that people can come up to.
But we do have to do the year-round programming.
Yeah.
That's important. That's something they want to see. But like I said, these are small events. We're not talking about big events. I don't want to use the word event. Small.
One thing I just wanted to add to it, I was talking to Cindy. I just took a trip around Michigan, and all these small towns have a gathering space, lots of them right on their main drag. Just down south of Portage, Wisconsin. I actually had my wife take a picture. I'm like, take a picture of that because that's what we're kind of going for. So as you go around, you see a lot more green space in their communities to get people there, stop, see what's going on, and get them into town. So again, that's what we're trying to do here.
Could you show the Menominee Fall pictures? This was mentioned last week as a spot that's very similar to ours, a very busy intersection. This is how it used to look. Well, it looks like they're starting to work on it when this picture was taken. And then this is different angle. I'm sorry, I couldn't find one with the same angle, but it gives you an idea of how nice a spot like that can look. And it's very successful, even though it is in a busy intersection. But like Cale said, it's not the only example of something like that. No. Did anybody have any comments before we move on to the budget? Did you have anything else? Okay, I'm sorry, last week you got some incorrect information that I didn't even realize you had. So we're going to give you the correct stuff this time, the updated. That was old stuff that we'd been working on. Yes, please, put that first one up.
This one here is the one, the correct one, yes.
Yep. Okay, what it shows is the owner soft costs. We were lucky, Veerbecker did a topographical survey for only $850, and we thought it would be much more than that. Parkitecture, our architect is charging us $20,400, and he has been very good to work with. I think we all were very pleased with how fast it all came together once we had, met with him. Yeah.
Can you break down that 20,000? Because I think,
Now I don't remember how it's broken
well,
down.
I know that earlier in the process, wasn't there, like we paid for step by step. We haven't paid all of that for what we see. Is that correct? Or is the 20?
I'd have to look back.
That is
I-
correct. We've only paid 8,000 for the first, if we went through the whole project with Blake, it would be 20,000. But we would
Okay.
have to come back to council to get that approval. That
Okay.
was at the first council meeting. So we've only paid them 8,000 right now.
Okay, so I think I remember that number being to get to the final drawings.
Thank you,
But-
Karen.
Through project management and
Okay.
bidding.
Thank you.
Construction costs, those are the 78,362. And then in order for us, you can see down below, TID 6, we decided in our CIP, we approved 53,500 for the old City Hall site. And the Vibrant Spaces is worth 50,000. So that brings us to 103,500. And you can see that there's a lot of in-kind costs. Now and before you have a heart attack about the, that should not be there either. That, I thought that I eliminated that, yeah. The 48,000, a lot of that has to do, we can go to the next page.
Next page.
Yeah, go to the in-kind donations. Show you how that is, because these are numbers based on what it would cost a contractor to do these things. And the city will be doing some of the infrastructure and then some of the site amenities. And then the in-kind, we're hoping to get the public memorial benches, trees, the mural, and the shade structure. So again, I would say that the 14.5 is high for putting that gray plastic thing around there and the demolition of the parking lot. And some topsoil. And then the lawn, the berm, trees, again, the trees are just listed at 400 because those are things that will be added. So we do not have a definite figure on that one. Outcropping stones, as the city finds those big stones, they can put those on the berm. Picnic tables, Cale thought that they could come out of Park and Rec budget. Signage is split with some of the monies coming from in the 78,000 figure, and some is coming from the city planner pots we already have. Did you want to add anything to that? About the city stuff? Or maybe Sarah, I don't know.
No, like I told Cindy, like we're currently trying to update some benches and picnic tables throughout the other parks. So as we do that, there's maybe opportunities that we get a picnic table for that park as we would for all the other parks as well. So
As far as the trees, I have at least 4 people that have already come forward and wanting to donate trees. So I remember our mayor, Justin, wanted to donate trees. And several other people have come forward. So I don't think the stuff, and we, like we said, we do it as we go, but it'll be, we have an arborist, so we'll do it right. The mural, that's another thing that we can do, and then we want to be part of the mural walk. But again, that doesn't have to be done right away. So this is, if you go back to the other ones and really, yeah,
So
yeah,
now
please
this-
ask question.
So are those numbers labor costs or?
The 14.5 and the 15.3 were numbers from the, our architect. It'd be what the contractor, what he estimated would cost, charge.
But
for
there,
it.
but it's in-kind city cost. So is it in-kind city, like, so that's coming out of somebody's budget? So I'm curious, and is it including labor or is it just for, what's the
Well,
word I'm
that's-
trying to come up with? The things.
Well, I think it's going to be less, number one, but
So like demo of the parking lot is just us using our equipment and our crew that already exists, right? So it's not necessarily the gas or something like that that we would spend on a typical day. The erosion control, we would need to buy some of those materials, but it's not 14,500. So she's taken that number out of the original architect's like line items budget, right? So for the contractor to do it, it's 14,500, but for us, it's usually a fraction of that, right? Because
Yeah.
we're paying for.
So it's things that
Labor
we
and
already have. So we're
materials.
not buying something and then it's
Like
labor
top
cost.
to-
We
Soil.
would we don't have to buy topsoil, but we do have to buy that erosion control fencing. But I mean, it's a fraction of that
Sure.
14,000.
I understand
it's
that.
not
Yeah.
going to cost us $8,000 to demolish the old parking lot and the.
And the
Well, I
side
mean,
amount-
if we paid someone to do
Yeah,
it,
no,
but yeah,
but this is-
in-house, it's
yeah.
just work we're doing.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff.
And the site amenities, I heard Kale, you say you're buying new picnic tables for other spots and you'd also buy them for this site, or you're gonna
We
move some
could look to
around?
do that, yes, as we rotate.
Or
um,
maybe somebody would want to donate, money for picnic tables too.
Yep, so if we don't have donations, where's the money coming from?
Well, that's what, we don't have to do it all at once. I don't think
That doesn't answer my question. Is this a Park
No.
and Recs budget item? Is this a
No,
public
but
works
what do you
budget
mean?
item?
What
This-
exactly are you talking about? Because if
Okay,
we,
let me start over. I don't care what the number is. It's going to be something. We're going to spend some money. You're telling me those numbers are a little high,
oh, yeah,
but there's going to be a number there. Where is that money coming from? Whose budget is it coming from? Why is this a hard, help me. Am I asking a question that doesn't make sense to other people?
No, you're,
Thank you.
can I,
Whose
can I,
budget
let me,
is-
We haven't
so
sat
the
down and all decided
14.5
where it's coming.
and the 15.3 are what are listed as estimates for contracted work that are being suggested could actually happen in-house from the city. So that's the top one. I think we all got that. You're saying, so how do we get to the added up cost of what
Nope.
those will cost?
Nope, let me start over.
Okay.
Whose budget
Do you understand
does
it different?
any cost
Okay.
come out of? Whose budget is paying for any cost that ends up being incurred?
It
Got it.
looks to me like on that top infrastructure section would come out of hers, what materials they use and gas, things like that. Picnic tables it would come out of multiple departments, it looks like. Picnic tables would come out of Park and Rec.
So our wages and the gas and everything like that would come out of
Right.
street. We haven't had the conversation of who is actually buying the erosion control fence. I don't know that yet, that we didn't have that conversation.
I mean, we have a budget meeting tomorrow and the next day. And we will have to allocate, even if the total cost ends up being $5,000 or $10,000, it's got to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So
It sounds like multiple.
if somebody wants money to pay for these things next year, I would encourage you to tell me or Todd or any of the people on the budget committee where you think that money's coming from.
so you're only talking about the top two, right? Because
my
the bottom
gosh.
ones is plain, we're talking about,
I'm talking about any money that's coming from the city, and we are just happen to be on this page right now.
I'm-
I haven't gotten a
mean,
solid answer from
in-kind
anybody.
public would be coming from the public.
And if we don't get those donations,
Well,
then we
will-
just won't do them.
we will wait till we get, I don't think you'll have a problem getting the trees and the memorial benches. But, and the mural can be put off, the shade structure, you know? Right.
Tanya, I agree with what you're saying because I'm on the budget team as well, that in order to make decisions for how we're allocating money for next year, we need more detail. Is that what you're asking?
I have a hard time approving something that I don't understand how we're paying for it. I'll be honest with you. So I could start with that question.
Can we hold that question for a moment? So to zoom out a little bit, the design that we're seeing is a schematic design. It's still only in the first phase of design, and the estimated numbers are based on what we're seeing there. So when we approved to have this design done, we said we were only going to go forward with the schematic design to get to a place where we knew it would either maybe happen or not happen. And that's where we're at today. Some of that was we had to have a design to get approved or to actually apply to the grant, which now we know we have a pre-approval waiting on an audit that's almost done. That came from public safety last 1 hour ago. So any action taken tonight is not to finalize a design or finalize the acceptance of the whole project. I think it is to continue to the next step. But I want Cindy to clarify that of what is the next step and what do we actually need to walk away from so we have numbers for budget or next steps to get those numbers. Does
Well,
that?
Sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like I need to meet with Sarah and Kale and we can talk about these numbers. Because in 2 weeks, we hope to have the resolution. The resolution has to be attached for the application. So does it have to exactly be the way it's on there once we hand in the application? No, my understanding is it's not, but it can't be any major changes either. It'd be my understanding. So I think I see us closer than maybe you see us.
I think we're closer. I think we also will probably end up needing to come back with a resolution that you're suggesting, and also the next phase of design.
Excuse me, Mayor.
No, please
Isn't
go
this
ahead.
on the agenda because it was a furthering of our public safety, and all this was supposed to do was cover that we went through the chief of police, went through the chief of fire. They don't see any issues with this plan moving forward. And that's all this agenda item was. It wasn't to talk budgets. It wasn't to do any of that. It was to say that we approved it from public safety, that everything looks to move forward.
That's not my understanding. Thank you, Seth. But my understanding is that whatever was the agenda item last week, we were going to public safety, get public safety concerns answered, and then it was coming back to us for that same agenda item that was on the agenda last week.
That was my
If that did not
understanding.
include talking about the budget, then I don't know why we're talking about it today.
No, it should have last week.
No,
I think
appreciate
it's
that.
all of
Thank
those
you.
things that the budget was on the council packet last week, but we didn't,
It had incorrect things in it.
we didn't get into that part of it at the discussion last time because we also sent it to public safety. That's what came out.
Mhm.
And yes, it does, Seth's comment of it coming back here
I
tonight.
just looked at the agenda
Yep.
item. and
If you want to
it
give
has public
more
safety
context to that too.
consent. Well, I mean, it
Yeah.
was what we were discussing as
Yeah.
the concerns arose of traffic and vehicles having an issue with extra eyes on a spot and what the concern is with safety measures to maintain separation. And through what we discussed in public safety, through what both chiefs presented, we have to obviously take concerns about what trees and what plants go in there, but there wasn't anything that come out of public safety that said we need to stop this process. It's all I had hoped we were covering, but I wasn't here last week either, so.
Does anyone else from public safety want to add anything from their comments or the meeting outcome?
Yeah, I'll just say, so I was a loud voice last council meeting about concerns around safety, in particular for pedestrians and representing someone who has a family of pedestrians. I was impressed with how thoughtful both chiefs were and listening to the concerns, and how Cindy has laid back out how safety has been a concern throughout. So I will say that I voted in favor of moving it back out of the Public Safety Committee and back to this body, in great part because everyone was demonstrating thoughtfulness and listening and concern, and I would expect we would do the same as the project unfolds. That's my summary.
Yeah, there was also comments made that as the project unfolds, it's like, we're not gonna keep the chiefs out of those decisions made. We're gonna include them in whatever changes. I think I understand. Also, we didn't talk about budgets in public safety, right? But we are now. And there, you do have a line on here that says expenses, revenue, and then you say there's savings just below, like move that up a little bit. It's on there. So, right. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, if you're already accounting for savings and we don't have money in hand from donations, it does raise questions of where does the money come from? That's why I sit with Tanya in this discussion, because budgets are real, and you can't just say, oh, it's going to be donated, everything's going to be donated, because then, like you said, if it has to be a certain design, or we can't change it so much, then we can't just delay the whole park while getting the grant money, right? Like, we have to build the park, right? So, like, it has to come from somewhere.
I don't think there's a timetable. I mean, this is what we're planning on doing, and I mean, they know what the project is. They know the in-kind, you know. They being WEDC.
Right. I just I don't know. So I sit on the playground committee, and we have a mural, but it was not free. Right? Like, we did account for that in our budgeting. Here, it's like you have it accounted for as it's going to be a donation. And I don't know, that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to say
I don't
that.
think that's a make or break thing for the.
No, I'm not saying that either. I think we're just concerned that if you're accounting for $40,000 being in kind, it's hard to say, yes, we're all for this project, knowing that we might be on the hook for an additional $40,000 and not knowing where we're gonna maybe get that money from. Is, like, I guess, does that make sense?
I don't think it'll be 40,000, but
Sure.
no, because of.
I understand. Any additional monies still need to be accounted for, and that's, I think, all that Tanya was trying to.
I don't want to start a park project and we
Right.
get halfway through, we're not able to come up with the in-kind stuff, and then, but we still want to move forward, or perhaps the grant is requiring us to move forward and then we have to pay for it somewhere. I think we'd also be remiss by assuming that any of the stuff in the in-kind city doesn't cost anything just because the city workers are doing it. It's their time and labor that they're not doing something else for the city. So it is costly. It's just not money I've got to write a check for today, right? But it's money, it's time and money and work that they aren't doing something else.
Is there a way that we can give clear direction on what we need next to make an approval or a decision on
What was the
moving
end
to the
goal of
next
this
step?
agenda item?
So the end goal of this is to move towards the pre-app or the application now with WEDC when the audit is done. Is that correct?
But we still need the resolution.
Correct. So the resolution is coming on the next agenda, the second week of September. Is there something else we also need to have in the packet to get to an approval for that? Or to inform or answer some of the questions?
Um,
Do you want to see a full budget?
yeah, I think that would help.
Do you want to see those costs allocated by department or estimated by department, or?
Wasn't that a part of the $8,000 we approved was to get architecture to create a bid plan so that we could get to the point of bidding so that we had an end goal? Now, if we're still in that early point, then I think,
No, we have.
okay, well then we have to probably be able to review that to make choices moving forward off that, I would say.
Is that something that we can get to for the next meeting to see the costs breakdown of that plan? Do we want to see it phased or do we want to see it as a whole? Or both?
Yeah, I would answer that with a question, which is we brought up here is how does WEDC define the park being done so that we can then receive that grant money? So whatever
That's a good point.
pieces of the budget get us to that definition of done, if you will.
I will say these WEDC grants are reimbursable. So you have to pay for that stuff up front and then get reimbursed. So you have to be able to go far enough into your project with those in-kind parts on those statement of expenditures in order to get reimbursed. So there are upfront costs. I'm just letting you know that you need to know in this budget going into it.
Well, I know you know Vibrant Spaces grants, but I know when I hand in the application, they don't want the in-kind stuff listed. They just want the budget, the construction costs and
You still have to come up with the $50,000, which is all construction costs, right?
Yeah, you have to show expenditures and some of that stuff when you're doing, in order to get the money,
no,
you have to show that, and that's all part of that has to be done first. And if that's not, if you're gonna do it in phases, you're not gonna get the money all up front and then be able to finish it in phases. I'm just telling you that that's how these grants work. You have to have it paid for and then get reimbursed. So just keep that all in mind when you're looking at this as well.
Sarah and Kale and Cindy, is this something that over the next weeks ahead of the next council, this could be worked on to bring on the next agenda?
So with regards to the stuff the Public Works is doing, I can try to figure out like how much the silt fence costs. I do hesitate a little bit about like our time and equipment, which I can certainly put in, but you brought up the park project. I think you'd be surprised how much Public Works is, and we do that all the time. Public Works works for everybody at some capacity at some point, and so just to be fair to all departments, we don't necessarily like parse out the oil change amount that like we did work on the police cruiser or the, so I don't want to get too much in the weeds with that.
I'm not asking for
Yeah,
that, Pete,
but I'm happy to look at like, okay, what would have to come out of our budget that we wouldn't normally have, like silt fence, for example.
anything the
Yeah,
erosion.
I can
control
certainly do
stuff,
that.
Yeah.
This is also coming at a time when we're scrutinizing our budget, so it's top of mind. But I think if we can get to having a full budget to review and approve or review and discuss with the resolution, and then we'll have an update on the audit. Is that kind of where it's
I'm like
needed
maybe
next?
2 days away from getting that part approved, so that part is not.
Okay.
What happened with that is that they won't even allow us to apply for this grant because the audit was holding it up. Then they got the audit and they didn't like the wording within the audit. So I'm trying to work with our auditors to get some side notes in there, and I think I'm this close to getting it being okay. So that part won't be an issue.
I think that we need to leave out the in-kind donations and work unless they've already been committed. unless somebody's already committed to the trees. But the shade structure and the mural and things like that, there's not 100% certainty that, we're going to get that donation. So I think they have to be left out too, don't
I think
they?
it goes again to what do we need to accomplish with this park space to fulfill the $50,000 grant money? And
Yeah.
can we as a city accomplish that? And do we
Mhm.
like what we accomplish before that gets received?
I hear Seth saying he wants to move this along.
Seth, do you have a motion?
Well, I don't think that grant hinges upon a shade structure or a mural.
Right.
Mm.
that's-
Well, and
that's a
again,
good
mean,
point.
Huh?
That's a good point.
Right, but I mean,
I maybe
it can
didn't
be moved
understand what
forward and
the agenda item
Without some of
was,
these.
because from what it looks like on our agenda,
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion to move forward with our park plan, or is it green spaces? What are we calling it again?
Brokewood Green. but it's
Brokewood
not-
Green, not official, on account of approval from public safety. That get muddied and just, that's what we're covering tonight for this space. And
It's got a motion
I'll second it.
and a second by Todd. Any further discussion?
if we need to talk about when we're being presented the actual budget of this, then that would just need to be another agenda item. But to get us through what the agenda was for tonight, so that discussion has to happen.
Where's that admin when you need him?
I will say, I wasn't at the last one either. However, public safety really shouldn't have been put on this agenda the way it was listed. It was just that it went to city council last week. It was forwarded to public safety for those concerns and come back. So it technically is the exact same as what it was the last council. Public safety should not have been listed on here. So that is an error. I just wanted to make sure that
Lori
Your
was
mo-
out last week.
I was at my clerk's conference, so I wasn't that, if I would have been asked, I would have said, don't put that on there. But I'm just letting you know that if you wanted to change your motion, say, and it's because of what came out of public safety, that may not be actually what your intention should be in that motion. I'm not trying to change your mind.
No,
But
Should it be contingent upon a final budget approval?
that's what, however you guys want to put it. It just doesn't need to be attached to public safety.
I'm probably not the one to be doing the motion because I wasn't here last week that started this conversation that got us to this point. So I don't know what we were trying to accomplish in the end here.
Do we need any further approvals to move to the next phase on this? That would need to come to council next week to be presented to get this project continuing forward? Is there anything like I'm hearing we need a full budget breakdown that shows all things together? We could have a side breakdown that shows what's possible to be in kind, but we still need to see where everything falls within department budgets to plan for. And that if that comes next week, or sorry, to the next council agenda, that in addition to the resolution, what is the next step for this project? Because we're only at the first phase of design, right? The first 8,000. So once it's approved, then what do we need to do next?
Well, we need the resolution and then we hand in the application
Okay.
and we wait to hear back. And I know that they don't want any in-kind information on that application. So I'm puzzled by what you're saying.
My point of all of that wasn't what goes into the application. My point is when you get the money, and we were talking about budgets and how are we going to pay for this? The fact that you have to pay for it and get reimbursed, those items need to be thought through as to where those funds will be coming from. That was the point of what I was trying to make on that.
I thought that that we approved 50-some $1,000 from the city back when we decided to turn that into a green space.
From the TID.
So isn't there Okay, so was it 50 some?
That's on their, line number 16.
Yeah, okay, there it is. Yep, I'm sorry.
I think some of the confusion comes in is that the grant is, because I've been helping Cindy try to get the application in, is that they don't want to see in-kind donations because it doesn't need to be that match. Like our match only has to be, it can cover up to 75%. And so our match of TID money of 53,500 meets that match. And then Lori's talking about something, we're kind of having three different conversations. You're absolutely right. We get into that all the time. We need to make sure that we have our match or their match covered until they reimburse us. So that's like another element that we have to make sure our cash flow is working. And then in order to do the whole project of that 151,000, we have those in-kind donations that make up that remaining amount. So this is a very challenging conversation, but I think everybody's right in some way.
And for budget purposes, we want to see if those donations don't actually get made, are we paying for them and out of what department?
Or we just don't.
Or do they
them.
get eliminated? Right, yeah.
So that's where I was using the word phased, right? Like maybe those get phased over time, or it's an in-kind donation, or it's another grant in the future for picnic tables, or for that it comes together as the plan over time, but maybe not right all at the first build. Does that
I don't
fit?
know if a Vibrant Spaces grant would work like that.
Kyle, you brought up, go ahead.
Can you get as much clarification on the grant
Yeah.
and then present that to us?
Well, I think we're there now. We've got way more than, we have more than 50% match, and they only require 25.
Sure, but if you're saying that the grant needs the plan, like this plan can't be deviated from in a wide sense, then we're already locked into this. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't parse it down. Does that make sense?
We certainly need to clarify what qualifies us as complete by the grant. So
Thank you.
we can
So
work
do we
on
need
that.
to add that to a motion?
I think we need to start all
There's
over
already
with
a motion on the table we have to deal with.
Amend the motion?
The motion on the table was basically to move forward with the Viroqua Green project, and you had as proposed by public safety,
Right.
which are you wanting to remove that piece is what
We
I'm
can
asking.
remove public safety if that was
Okay,
not
is that-
supposed to be part of the
Okay, for
agenda.
your second, and then you need to vote on this one, and if you're approving this and there's money involved, we need to do a roll call. So are we ready for the roll call on this?
I just want
Is
to
there
say
any more
one last
questions?
thing. I promise it'll be quick because I asked one question about the budget and then chaos ensued. That was not my intent. I just wanted some clarity. I am going to be voting no to this project. Has nothing to do with the budget. I just wanted that to be clear because I'm going to get a lot of kickback. And I'm opposing it because of the project scope. I just want to be clear about that to the public.
All right, so we have a motion and a second by Todd.
Yep.
Herking.
Can you clarify what my current motion is?
Motion by Seth, second by Todd to move forward with the Viroqua Green project. That was the end. If you're
I'm good
taking
with
out that, okay.
All right, then we will take a roll call.
Tanya,
No.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Todd Spaeth,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
and John.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Talk about something way less complicated, like public school finances.
What she said. Okay, so before we move on to item 14, I want to call attention to item 15, which is the second period for public comment. There is thank you. So there are 2 people currently signed up to make public comment on item 14. We're going to start with the presentation and then open it up for public comment. Each person will have 3 minutes to talk on this. Does anybody else want to add to this list? And if not at this time, that's fine. If you want to come up, what I'll do is I'll call from the top of the list down. And then when we get to the end of it, if anybody else would like to start commenting will just come to the podium in line. So item 14, presentation on public school tax bill transparency. Christina Reeser-Janes is here. Some background on this: Christina emailed me as the mayor and said that she has been doing advocacy work on this. I remember her being at the Empowering Education event that was held in Westby about a year ago with some of this on the presentation agenda. I want to set some expectations that we are not here to have debate about where money is going or what things that the city cannot control. We are here to talk about the decision of what the city could do and how, right? So if the city council hears and decides there's something that they want to do, then there's the how do we actually do it. So the conversations about what budget it comes out of and who does the work would then be discussed. And that is the intention of this. There are some additional community members in the room tonight from the public school, also from the county, because along with the city, the county, the public school, the DPI, there are a lot of people involved in how this transparency of where public dollars go gets to your tax bill. So with all that in mind, I'm going to invite Christina Reeser-Janes to start her presentation.
Hello, my name is Christina Reeser-Janes, and I'm not a big public speaker, so I've written this, so I'm just going to read it to you guys. I'm here today as a concerned community member. I'm a resident of Vernon County and a graduate of Kickapoo High School. In the past few years, I've become a strong advocate for an accidental advocate for public education. I stand before you today on my own accord, representing only myself, no school district or no other organization. I want to bring attention to an issue regarding our property tax bills that has bothered me for some time, and I would like to bring forward a possible solution. When I reached out to the mayor to ask if I could address the council, I did not know that the Viroqua Area Schools was going to announce an operational referendum. I want to make it clear to everyone that I am not addressing you on a completely separate issue. This has nothing to do with the school's work to educate the public on their referendum, and I apologize if I have made a complex situation even more complicated. I'm here today to address only one topic: transparency on our tax bills. My issue is that the public money funding tuition for private voucher schools is included in the public education portion of our property tax bills. I believe this is misrepresenting where our tax dollars are actually going. Legislation to require separating the aid reduction caused by education vouchers from the public education portion on the property tax bills has been introduced in the state legislature for the past decade, but it has never even received a public hearing. This is why I feel it's incumbent on us to take action at a local level. We can no longer wait for them to legislate. We have the ability to tackle this here on our own. Because the voucher programs were expanded statewide under the budgeting process and were not voted on by the public, many community members are unaware that there are currently 4 taxpayer-funded private school tuition voucher programs here in Wisconsin. The original program, the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program, is funded off the top of the General Purpose Reserve. The other 3 programs, the Racine Parental Choice Program and the statewide Wisconsin Parental Choice Program and the Special Needs Scholarship Program, are all funded through state aid deductions that reduce local public school district revenues. The 2 programs that affect our area schools and most rural schools are the Wisconsin Parental Choice Program and the Special Needs Scholarship Program. The current 2025 and 20 through 27 state budget, which allocates state funding for public education, gave 0 new general aid to our public schools for the next 2 years. This same budget did increase the voucher payments for private schools, which in turn did increase the amount of tax dollars going to private schools. Although I have always found this issue to be of transparency troubling, what spurred me into action at this time is the fact that since 2017, when the voucher program was expanded statewide, there has been an enrollment cap limiting the percentage of students in the district that could participate in the voucher program. This coming school year, the caps fall off. There will be no limit to the number of vouchers per district. I feel it is more important than ever to give property taxpayers a more honest understanding of where their tax dollars are going. Local property taxes have been funding the state-mandated private school voucher programs for years, but this cost has been inaccurately bundled into the single education line item, even though the public schools have no control over the use or accountability of those funds. By separating out the amount levied for the voucher programs, property owners would be able to understand what portion of their tax dollars do not actually go to their public school. Depending on the location of the voucher school, your tax dollars could be leaving the district entirely to support private schools in other communities across the state. Last spring, on April 15th, 2025, last year in April 2025, the Green Bay City Council voted to support adding a line under the note portion section of the tax bill. The note reads, of the amount levied by the Green Bay area public schools, X amount of dollars is for the purpose of private school vouchers. This was an effort for clarity and transparency. Since then, other Wisconsin cities have taken similar action to address this issue, either through a line on the tax bill or through inserts included in the tax bill envelope. These cities include Milwaukee, South Milwaukee, Racine, Eau Claire, Sheboygan, Bayview, Westburn, and Ashland. Wisconsin public schools educate over 800,000 children each year. The public schools are held to strict standards regarding mandates, transparency, and accountability. I believe the taxpayers deserve transparency regarding what amount is being diverted away from our public schools. I am not here today to support or oppose education voucher programs, but rather to ask that we all do what we can to provide transparency for the general public. In order to begin this process, I ask that the Viroqua City Council consider following the example of Green Bay and pass a transparency resolution. You could use this resolution to direct staff to work with the Viroqua Area School District to follow the example of the growing list of Wisconsin cities and municipalities that are providing more transparency for the general public. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. We can be guided by the blueprints used by these other communities. I want to thank the City Council for allowing me to speak. I chose to address Viroqua City Council first as the county seat and the largest school district in Vernon County. I do intend to share this information with other cities and municipalities. Members of the council, as well as interested community members, are welcome to reach out to me for additional conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. So at this time, Christina's gonna stay, but we're gonna open up public comment, the second period for public comment. And with this in mind, that during the item 16 discussion with possible action towards a tax bill transparency resolution, that portion will be a discussion by council in collaboration with questions or any kind of input that might need to come for education of council in this decision from the public school or the county. I believe the treasurer may be online at this time, and Lori as city clerk. So
May I make a suggestion?
yeah, yep.
I just wondered if Christina could talk about this, because this is very important. She could just talk about that line.
Do you have a specific about that specific line?
Yeah, Broqua, just talk about
Sure.
how exactly are you talking this is affecting?
Okay, so these are the numbers, the aid reduction from each school district. I just chose these because they're area schools. And the biggest point of this is the increasing amount. And Viroqua went over $1 million. I just think people should understand where that money is going because it is separate to, the money that's going to our public schools. And it has always been identified as in one line, and I don't understand why we can't separate that out.
Thank you.
I would even ask that you go one step farther and explain what aid reduction means. Does that mean that's that less money going to our public schools? Because, okay, I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page.
Thank you, Seth. Yep. Yeah, let's talk more on that when we open the discussion, and
Okay.
that's valid.
I mean, I'd be happy to answer, but I just feel like if there's somebody who knows more than I do, then they should probably be talking.
So we'll
Technically,
move
once
on
we move on
to,
to public comment, we can't actually dialogue with the people speaking, so I think it's okay to ask. Is that why you're here, Chris? Yeah, to answer that question before public comment.
do you feel comfortable answering that? Okay. Do you want to come up to the microphone so anybody that's listening online can hear? So Seth, do you want to re-ask your question just for clarity? And
Well,
then,
It was simply from a wide open perspective, wanting the explanation of aid reduction and what that term means in terms of what's getting pulled from public schools.
Sure. We refer to this as our voucher number, if you will. So it's the amount that the DPI bills the school district every year for private school vouchers.
So it's not necessarily money they're taking away from you, it's money that you have to pay as a school district to support the vouchers overall.
You could look at it that way. I mean, I could get into the weeds on a whole lot of things.
I mean,
And I don't necessarily want to do that here. I want to be able to answer questions and those kind of things, but that number comes out of our June aid payment. There are things we can do with our levy and the revenue limit that allow us to be able to offset that cost, though. I am the director of business services for Oak Schools.
and
Chris
your name,
Rozeski, sorry.
and your name.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. For the purposes of our deliberation and discussion tonight, on the tax bill says public school and a number. What happens with this number in your world that would help inform a city council decision to help with transparency? Does this get subtracted from that? Is that simple?
Well, we've got different levies. We've got our operating levy. This is part of our operating levy. We've got a debt service levy. We have a community service levy as well. The reduction, this number is born out of, I guess our operating levy is born out of our revenue limit. That is set by the state. There's a per pupil amount, and it fluctuates based off of enrollment. As you kind of work down the revenue limit worksheet, it does then remove this dollar figure from the money that's coming to the school district. Every district in the state also has the ability to be able to claim a revenue limit exemption for this number. So in essence, and most do, the district could not afford to cover this by itself. So essentially, by claiming that exemption, we are that dollar figure is passed directly to the taxpayer.
Appreciate the clarification.
Thank
Chris,
you.
Can I ask a question? Is it similar to like if we collect property tax the levy for the city. And then we had to write a $1 million check back to the state to distribute to other municipalities.
Potentially, I think it depends on when you look at how much you can levy, because that's specifically controlled on our end. I don't know the levy side of it for the municipality. You know, so it has a significant impact. The place where it becomes more challenging, especially in the environment that we're in right now, is that when we're going and we're, you know, we see no new general aid. Expenses increase. We don't get regular inflationary increases to our revenue limit and haven't for decades. And you see the inflation that we've seen over the last number of years, things become more expensive. We don't get more money. That squeezes budgets. That results in us having to go to an operational referendum to be able to ask our taxpayers to exceed our revenue limit. This comes as part of the conversation when we're talking about our mill rate. This is an additional cost for education that taxpayers have to pay. You know, so when we're communicating our mill rate in those conversations that we have about operational referendums, this is part of that number. You know, so when when someone's looking at their tax bill and they're trying to determine how much the school district is actually, you know, getting from them, right now, this number is part of that.
Does anybody have more questions before we go to public comment? Did you want to add anything on that? No. Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move to item 15, the second period for public comment. I've got 2 people on the list, and once we go through those 2, if anybody else wants to come forward in person or online, I will invite you to do it at that time. So we'll begin with Kim Little. Kim, can you state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes for public comment.
Kim Little, 425 Chicago Avenue. I've been here about many things before, but I do want to say I'm not representing the Viroqua School Board. I am a member of the Viroqua School Board, but I am not representing the school board. I'm just representing myself. I myself went to 12 years of private education, for which my parents and myself, we paid for that. So that I'm not opposed to private education in any way, shape, or form. I think the question this brings is the transparency so people understand. And as you discussed earlier, you were talking about you're applying for these grants, where these monies coming from. That is a transparency thing. You're trying to understand and see what's out there. And yes, it does make a difference for us that as a school system, $1 million goes out. And I will say, you know, people just need to understand the difference because, you know what, Tanya brought up a thing, but you talked about going to other government agencies in essence with that money, not to private agencies, which I think that's a difference that people need to understand. And they need to understand the public school educates everybody. If you appear at the door, you get an education. Have to meet their needs no matter what they are and everything. Private schools do not have to. They can say, we don't want to deal with you anymore. As a matter of fact, they can enroll you and 2 weeks later they can say, we're not going to enroll you, and they come back to the public school, but the 3rd Friday counts already, so we've already missed a half a year of state aid. So I think really budgets are very complicated, as you kind of were indicating even in your discussion about the park or whatever, the green space, you know, having that transparency. This is really about transparency. It doesn't change where the money goes. It's just so the public understands that $1 million of your tax money goes to private schools. That's really what it's about. If it's complicated to do and everything else, I don't know the ins and outs. I'm sure Lori's thinking, oh, no, I got to figure this out and put it on the bill and everything. But I would encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Matthew Voss. You state your name and your address in 3 minutes.
My name is Matt Boz, 815 Chicago Avenue. I'm also, well, I have had 5 children go to, I think, every form of public and private school in this entire community. I'm also the administrator of Youth Initiative High School, which has been a private high school here since 1996. I guess basic thing I want known is that, you know, we are not a voucher school. So if there's ever any problems with vouchers that you have, lose my number. But I will say that, you know, I think in terms of transparency, I've always voted against every public education referendum that has ever been put up. And that's because I have felt that the public school has not always represented the whole public. My views on that have changed pretty dramatically. I think I will definitely be voting for this referendum because the public school has become, I think, more transparent about what they're doing and more cooperative with working with the entire community. I think it's important to remember that these, you know, this money is going, this is not just flying to some, you know, these voucher schools are heavily regulated. They are accountable to state standards in many of the same ways that public schools are. You know, I think if you want to take transparency all the way, if someone wants to pay, if the school system wants to pay $1 million for a new athletic field, is that going to go on the tax bill? Not everyone's going to agree with that. In fact, that's why I didn't vote for the last referendum. But I think taking a wider view is really important here. These schools in this community have been an engine for economic growth, for an expansion of tax base and economy generally. I mean, I know I can look at dozens of people in this room who made the decision to move here, to buy a house here, in whole or in part based on the educational choices they have in this community. So I guess it doesn't, putting just the private tax or the private payout to the voucher program on the tax bill doesn't feel like transparency to me. That feels like targeted transparency. And if you want to do full transparency, put the whole, you know, put the entire school's budget in the envelope. And people are going to they're going to pick and choose what they like and what they don't like. But part of living in a, you know, diverse community is sometimes means paying for things that you don't actually like. There's a lot of things that my tax dollars go to that I don't agree with. But I think that's part of living in a community with other people who have different views, and it's part of supporting choice. And I think that's really important. And has been, while you watch other small towns fade into the distance, this town continues to be vibrant and even growing. And I think private education plays a huge role in that.
Thank you, Matt.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. State your name and address.
My name is Christina Reeser James, Reedstown, Wisconsin. I just wanted a couple things. They do not have the same accountability and transparency as public schools, but that isn't the issue we're talking about right now. The issue that we're talking about is transparency. Like, how many of you knew that your tax dollars were going to fund public schools? And I'm not saying anything against or private schools. I sent my own children to a private school. I have nothing against it, and I understand the value of the public schools in our community. But your tax dollars are also going to the Academy of Excellence in Milwaukee or wherever, you know, because some of these schools are online. So, and also, like, public schools, you can go to the DPI and look at the public school budget. You can see it all. It is transparent. It's all available. It's public information. And that is not true of voucher schools. But my issue is just that the community understands where their tax. I don't think that the public school should carry that burden alone on the tax bill. And that isn't saying anything bad about the school, any school. It's just saying this is where your money's going. there's nobody in this room that has anything bad to say, I'm sure, about the good schools we have in our community. We just think people should understand how the money is being spent.
Thank you, Christina. Does anybody else from the public, either online or in the room, want to come forward for public comment? Sarah, do we have
Krista?
Yep, Sarah's
Hi.
gonna, can you state your name and your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Yep. Hi, this is Karen DeLapp. I'm the Vernon County Treasurer at E7130 Swenson Road in Viroqua. I just wanted to talk a little bit about what should and shouldn't, I guess, go on the tax bills. So really what should go on there is how much they should pay, when they need to pay it, and where it needs to get paid. I know they used Green Bay as an example, and I just wanted to kind of state that when they did that, they had to abbreviate a lot of things, which caused a lot of confusion to the taxpayers. So because our systems don't allow for a lot of notes, they had to abbreviate GBAPS, I believe, on there, and then a dollar amount. So a lot of people didn't know what that stood for. So I would recommend, if there is going to be something with the transparency, to put it on the back of the tax bill or in your insert that shows the DPI website and where more information can be found. I am going to be the one taking a lot of those phone calls along with Lori in regards to where those numbers come from. And we don't always know those answers, but the school would probably know that, or DPI would know that. So that's just my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Are you staying online for, so we're in the public period or public comment right now. I'm hopeful that you'll stay online for the next discussion with possible action, where we can talk and ask questions in more detail about what you just shared.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. For
Thank
the
you.
public, Karen DeLapp is the treasurer for Vernon County. So that's who we just heard from. All right. Is there anybody else online at this time who wants to make a public comment? Thank you. You can come forward, state your name, your address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Do I press a button here first? It's already on. My name is Michael Brown, 410 East South Street here in Viroqua. I just want to take a moment to thank Christina immensely for taking the lead on understanding a very complex issue that has been with Wisconsin for quite a while now. What we have seen in the public is that not a lot of people understand how money goes from one place to another and what's happening. And I personally support the transparency effort to understand where money is going, and so that we all can make better decisions as we think about what we need to do for ourselves in elections with elected officials, and start to think about how to affect change that can really affect a community positively. I think the issue overall that we're looking at, I think people are just tired and people are exhausted, and there is a lot of noise in the world. And when it comes to something like this, looking at this grid and saying, what money am I talking about? Not many people can sit there and take the time to absorb that. But Christina, thank you for taking all your personal time to figure this out and actually come forward with a proposal that can help people understand better what's actually happening in very complex systems. And I just want to voice my support for seeing more transparency within our tax bills. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
My name is Sonia Neuenhaus. I live at 422 Hickory Street. I have a daughter at 8th grade at Viroqua. I support having transparency, but mostly my reason being with declining enrollment, not at all just due to private schools, but to population changes. We really need to support our public schools, and that's how our town will stay vibrant. as well as having the additional schools to keep our, people wanting to move here. And when people see a higher and higher proportion of their tax bill going to public schools, they might just be like, So I think it would be just wonderful to spell it out a little more. I think it should be an insert. I'm very grateful that Karen took the time to be on the call today, the treasurer, to remind us of the details and the potential headaches. But I also think we could use that insert as an opportunity because many people don't go on the website of the city. So now I'm not talking about schools, but it's an opportunity for the city to maybe make some other announcements, like something about shoveling if it's winter time and the tax bill is coming out then. But I think we could really use that insert for some other key aspects that we want everybody to know about, because I don't think people go to our website to find out information about mowing and shoveling, etc.
Thank you, Sonia. Is there anyone else at this time? All right, we will move on to item 16, discussion with possible action on tax bill transparency resolution. We do not have a resolution drafted at this time. We have looked at some of the other resolutions that are public that other places have either put forward or adopted. But at this time, we are at the very first step of opening this conversation in our community. And this is a conversation that is not something that the city does on its own. This is something that the city is a piece of the pie or piece of the puzzle of how tax bills come and what it's included. And so where we can make decisions, it's our intention tonight to ask questions to the other people who have to make some of these decisions. We do not have anybody from school board here representing, but we do have two people in the room who are from the public schools. Dr. Jeremy Hill, our district administrator, superintendent, is here, and Chris Rozeski is here. And you heard from him a little bit earlier. Lori Polhamus is our city clerk, and Karen DeLapp is online. She's the Vernon County treasurer. And I think in this conversation and discussion, we're all going to learn a whole lot about how this all works, because as council, we, discuss and think about what we want to do, a park, school funding, tax bills, all the things. And then these fine partners help implement and figure out how we're going to do it. So anything that we decide we might want to do here, this is an opportunity to ask the questions about, well, how would that actually go? And then also to listen to hear what actually occurs in the offices upstairs and down the street, because we're the county seat, county buildings nearby, but also at our schools. So with that, we'll open for discussion on this topic.
Well, I have an easy question, I think. If we were to move that we wanted to have this line item or this insert, how would that just be the city collected ones? You were thinking the same thing, weren't you? Because the county sends out a postcard, so we can't do an insert with the postcard.
Okay, I've just been sitting here quietly worrying about this one because I know there's a lot of people in the room that don't know how a tax bill actually is created. The city itself does not create those tax bills. That's why we have the county treasurer that does that. There are only so many lines, as you did hear her say, to be able to put on that tax bill. And there's only so many places that you can actually make those changes. There's not a lot of room left because the state tells us what we have to put on there. And Karen, you may want to answer this one. When you said put it on the back of the tax bill, I don't even know, is that possible?
I'm not sure. I think so, but a lot of the back of the tax bill is actually like state mandated what's on there.
Correct.
That comes from like the Department of Revenue. So I'm not sure if that is an option. the insert is probably the best option in my opinion, and not putting it on the tax bill. The problem is the font size is going to be tiny. It might work for the city of Viroqua that only has one school district, but when you start talking multiple school districts, those are going to be different numbers, and that's going to cause a lot of, I mean, I don't know how that would even work, because the notes would have to be the same for each municipality. So as far as I know, that's not even a thing that we can do right now at this time.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure everybody heard that originally, the back of the tax bill. So that's probably not an option. The second option that we've talked about here is the tax inserts. Everybody is required by the PSC, we have to send out notices on when they have the listing of how much you're paying in your utility bills. Plus they have that other options. And so that's already a two-phase or two-sided thing that goes in as an insert. The other thing is your dog and your cat and all those licensing, that 1/3 sheet. These are not free. We use a third party that actually stuffs and sends out our tax bills. We cannot send them stuff just to attach and throw in there. We have to pay for them to print and stuff that. So if we add another insert, that is going to increase our postage. They only allow us 3 inserts, and we already have basically 3 already. So we can't even add anything in there at this point. So I'm just saying that if you decide that you want to do an insert versus maybe if there's a line item that would, like, say, reference someplace. I know everybody wants to have that ooey gooey letter saying what everybody's doing in the city. It's a great idea. I love the idea, but I don't think it belongs in the tax bill. I think it belongs at maybe another time of the year, because we're always at the end of the line of basically the time frame and when we can get this stuff out based on when the budget happens, because we're waiting on the school district, the county, all those entities to get us the information to get to the county so that they can even get those processed and then sent out to our third party. We get calls every year. Where's our tax bill? It's like the middle of December and they still haven't gotten it yet. Well, there's a lot of factors that get it to that point. But if we add things into that tax bill as another insert, that's another delay for you guys getting your bills. So I just want you guys to all be completely aware of all the additional cost that just one insert can do to your tax bill that we are already required to do.
Can we take out the dog and cat licensing thing and put in the?
If you don't want to collect dog and cat licenses, I'm required to do that too. So something's got to give, and I don't know where that, I mean, I totally agree with the fact that we need transparency. I just don't know if the tax bill is the actual location. I would rather somehow teach our residents that there are other options for resources than just spoon feeding it. Because if you look at the number of tax bills that go out, a lot of them don't live here. We've got Airbnbs up the wazoo in this city, and they don't look at that information. Half the time when they send their payment back, those inserts are coming back with the payment. They never even opened and read it. So I don't think that that's the place that they're going to actually, a lot of people will, but I'm just saying what I've seen, that I don't think that that's the most greatest use of our resources and our tax dollars to spend to send that stuff out.
I think that's important to include what she just said, is that it's going to cost us more if we try to tackle this as an insert, that it will cost more tax dollars to help educate about where the tax dollars are going. And that's just important to note. Karen, do you have anything to add on this topic at this time? And then I'll ask some of the others in the room who might have an idea on this.
No, I think I, basically just stated that I do think if you just put it onto the tax bill, it's just going to be minimal characters. It's going to be very small, and it's going to cause a lot of confusion, and nobody's going to understand it. So I don't think it's really going to serve its purpose there. Thank you.
Can you talk a little about what you shared with me the other day, like the cost of actually trying to change the form for the tax bill?
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
I'm not super familiar with that. I just, I did reach out to La Crosse County Treasurer, because she has had this come up. She's had, I believe, 3 school districts request a resolution to put it on the tax bill. And so she did a lot of research, and she was the one that I discussed this with. She informed me that, just due to the minimal characters that we'd have, they'd have to, make changes to the program and there would be a cost associated. I don't know what that cost would be. I don't know who would have to pay for that cost in order for us to do what we actually would want to do. And in regards to if there's multiple school districts that are included in one municipality, how do you determine which tax bills are going to have $1 amount versus the other based on the school district? Our system isn't smart enough to figure that out. It'd just be a blanket statement for a municipality, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Hill or Mr. Rozeski, if you want to add anything at this time, not that you need to, but if you do want to, please come up to the podium and do so. Sorry.
1 second. Could this be something as simple as instead of coming up with a dollar amount on your tax bill,
A percentage.
a percentage? Okay, so I get a letter, or it doesn't have to be that. It could be in the newspaper, it could be on the rate anywhere, saying 8% of your school tax money goes to out of county schools, instead of putting it in sending it out with your taxes. Is it something that could be that simple instead of coming up with a dollar amount?
It's a great offering of an idea. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jeremy Hill. I'm the District Administrator for Viroqua Area Schools, and I am at 5386 Birdie Court. We appreciate this conversation. We appreciate the partnership with the city and with the county, and we think that it is important for people to know where their tax dollars go and what we pay for at the school. I think the question raised about municipalities is actually probably the opposite of that. This one municipality is all Viroqua area schools, but Viroqua area schools includes several municipalities. So when you make a resolution to say that this is what you would like to do, if that were to be the case, it doesn't cover the Viroqua Township, doesn't cover Jefferson Township. It doesn't cover any of those additional township pieces that would be very difficult for the county to try to disaggregate and break apart. Any other questions that you would have for me? Okay.
I was just trying to look up what our, an image of our tax bill, which I think would be helpful. I mean, and I'm very familiar with what the county postcards look like. There's not a lot of room on the postcard, but the city bill, like there is a line item that has, are you saying that we can't add another line item there seems like there's plenty of room on a city tax bill?
So before we answer that, I just want to make sure we stay in the frame of the agenda, Mr. McClurg. That the goal tonight is to start this discussion and to understand the nuance of just how detailed this is, because in order to continue with this work, council does need to think about the amount of work that would possibly need to go into unwinding and then clearly and transparently communicating it, which would take an approval of, do we want to work towards this or not? And if we do, are we approving city staff time to work on that? And so that's the frame of tonight. From that, we would then bring an update to a future. The other idea is that should there be a committee formed or a separate team formed for this task. These are some things that we can take action on tonight.
The other thing that I want to say before I sit down is that I work for the Viroqua Area Schools Board of Education. They instruct me in the work that I do, and they have not had a chance to talk about this either. And so it's important for them to be part of that conversation. We're lucky that we live in Viroqua and that we have partnerships across our community. This is an incredible place to raise your kids because there are so many choices for schooling. This is a community of choice. And the great thing about Viroqua is that there is a place for everybody in this community. So I want to state publicly that we are grateful for those partnerships. We're grateful for our partnerships with the private schools in our community because we share resources. We provide opportunities for their students to take 2 classes in our school system. We're grateful for the partnership with the city. We don't want to lose sight of that as well. So thank you for having this conversation.
Thank you for coming. And I want to also, as a leader here, share gratitude for everybody in this room and that we are a strong place because we have options. And we're also a phenomenal picture at a time in the world of a lot of different people coming together to say, that's a tricky problem. How do we want to solve this? Because at the end of the day, this is what will keep us strong, is that we're going to look at the challenges that any one or parts of us are facing and say, yeah, we should look at that differently, or we could do this to overcome things that maybe we can't control at a local level, but we can do something to help each other through it. So thank you for coming, and I totally agree with your sentiment.
I'll try to keep it quick. So, my parents were both educators. I have grandparents that were educators, all in the public school district. What I'm hearing here, I think, is sort of a root cause that we need more support for our public schools and that they need more money. I'm not sure that this methodology of pushing that education campaign out to the public makes sense to me. I love the communication campaign. I love the passion that you're putting into it, Christina. That's why I love that I'm engaged in this council as like the junior most member of this council, because I'm learning so much. Like I now know that $1 million figure. If I could remember, I could tell you how much it costs to patch the concrete bump outside of Aldi or Walmart. Like I'm learning like how much a new excavator costs. A used ambulance costs $55,000. But I don't know that I want to put all that in the tax bill for property tax owners. I mean, I want to educate myself more on where my tax money is going. I do believe that even though this money is being funneled out of our public schools, it is still mostly going to help children in the state of Wisconsin, which I'm happy about. I do also suspect that some of the money I spend on taxes, not Viroqua taxes, does maybe go to potentially harm children, and that is a concern, and I'm embarrassed that I don't know what that number is. So I can't imagine personally voting in favor of this resolution, because it's just like, is this the beginning of some larger thing where we decide onesie twosie what we put into our property tax bill? And how could we instead use this body to somehow promote or figure out how to better support our public schools and educate the larger public about, like, why do people not want to pass resolutions? That's crazy. Of course, we all want the best for our kids, right? So that's just kind of where I am at. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. I think that's exactly what we're doing tonight, is just opening this conversation. Like, is a resolution the right path? Is a tax bill the right place? What other options do we have? And I want to encourage us to ask those questions of, do we want to create a subcommittee on something? Do we want to approve working collaboratively across our community to figure out how to tackle supporting public goods, not only just obviously public works and public safety, but continuing to have strong schools, school choice, safe places for all people in our community. I'd like to hear more about what your thoughts and deliberations are.
Okay, I definitely think the public needs to know, because I agree that a lot of people don't know that their money's going to the private schools, whether they like that or not, they need to know. I think that's important. I think we need to figure out a way to tell them, and I certainly would, listen to what Lori had to say and our county treasurer about how it would affect them. I'm curious, I guess, how the other cities, Eau Claire, other cities, that they have they have the same problem as Green Bay. I don't know. But if some other suggestion, I'm open to something so the public knows.
Well, you had asked a question regarding, is there room on our tax bill? We are state mandated to, if there's a referendum at all, that is the one thing that has to go on there. So the more referendums that end up on there, that is what has to be on there 100%. That's not saying that there's going to be room to do that every year. If it's possible, I guess I would have to work with our county treasurer to know if it's even possible. Because that's one thing that we have to put on there is how much of your tax bill is paying for this referendum for this school district. That is one of our requirements. Now, I believe on the last tax bill, I think was there 3 referendums listed? I can't remember what dates they were that they came through, but it seems like there was 3 lines of different referendums. Yep. Yep, so there might have been 2 left, but if they go for another referendum, then that's another one that has, so all them spaces have to be used specifically for that. So there may not be room. There may be this year, but maybe not next year. So you can't count on that on the tax bill.
Is there a way right now to find out what, like if I wanted to call somebody right now and figure out what percentage I paid to this, is there a person I can contact?
Yeah.
So if that information is already readily available, transparency is great. But yes, my own
Much
taxes.
of your personal,
Yeah.
I think it's just probably a percentage.
So transparency is great, but if it already exists, if people want to know,
Right. Why spoon feed them?
They don't even know ask the question though.
maybe they don't care though,
Oh, I think.
right? Like, I mean,
But if they
People-
care, they
people-
should go looking.
right, but if people don't,
I mean, I think the question, it's a good question, AJ, but the question is like, were you surprised by that number? And if you were surprised by that number as a council person who's involved in making those decisions, then maybe other people would also be surprised by that number.
100% agree with that, Tanya.
And we didn't ask the question. Christina
Right.
just brought it to us.
Really
So, yeah,
appreciate Christina
it's
doing
a good question.
I'm saying if it's already there to get, right? Like we now see this, like they can get that information if they really needed it without us spending X amount of dollars to put it on a tax bill or an insert.
I think anything relating to the school tax levy, you can always call me about. That's definitely part of my job.
Do you want to state your phone number? Kidding. Just kidding.
That number changes every year. I mean, we could come up with a percentage of what the total levy is, or what the percentage of the voucher piece is out of our total levy, and you could apply that to the amount that you've got on your tax bill for the school district, and that is essentially what that number would be. If you're ever interested in knowing what that would be, I like doing math, and can figure that out for you and let you know.
So thank you for that answer, and I appreciate what you're asking. Tonight, do we want to move forward with continuing work on this? And I'm not suggesting we have to move towards a resolution, but continuing to work on this means that we would have to approve the ability to do so.
I would make a motion, we continue to work on this, just to see how we should proceed.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be in favor of at least finding out what a resolution looks like or what some other.
We got to get a
alternative-
second before we can discuss to her motion.
I'll second it so we,
So a motion by Cindy and a second by Tanya.
sorry.
Further discussion?
Yeah, so hearing that there is interest in
Can I finish my
continuing.
thought? Can I finish my thought?
Oh,
'Cause
Dash.
she cut me off.
Yeah, please do.
Sorry, I'm just trying to do Robert's rules here.
To find out what the other options are, it sounds like putting it necessarily on a line on the tax bill isn't maybe the best option, but years ago, I remember asking Nate if he could do one of those pie charts so people could see like for every $1 of your tax money, how much of that goes to different departments. Because I found that enlightening when somebody showed that to me, and I feel like it's just another exercise. So like finding the way that actually gets the information to people is more important than. So moving forward is just how to, maybe it's just something on our website that just is very, very clear, or, apparently the only place people get their information and news is on Facebook. So, I'll post on Facebook, but I'd be in favor of moving forward. I'm not in favor of having the staff take this on as something that they need to solve necessarily.
Some of
I'm
how
not
that
volunteering to be on a committee, on the budget committee.
some of how it happens is a question comes in or an email comes in to any office staff person, right? Someone calls, here's this meeting, calls because they saw something around town, and then it takes time during the day to route that and answer that question. So knowing that there are going to be questions asked because we have an active school referendum, so people inevitably ask questions. Do we want to, that's one of the ways that this happens, is time is allocated because the public's asking. How do we want to move? And I'm hearing a motion and a second, but Kyle also wanted to.
Yeah,
add a
just a
comment.
question, and it can be totally be left unanswered, but for those of you that are interested in moving this forward, let's say we realize that there was a magic wand right now, and we could wave that magic wand, and all of a sudden, every property tax payer in Viroqua, this information was in their mind right now, and they knew exactly what that number was, what the total budget for the school was, what percentage of the budget, what percentage of their payout was being funneled out of the community or out of the public school. What would happen? Like, what is the greater good that would happen from that? All of them knowing, because that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish, I think, is what I'm hearing. Like, we want everybody to know this, and we want them to know what their contribution is that's being taken out of the public school system that they thought was part of the public school system. That's my question.
One thing comes to mind is, do we want to have a voucher system? And that would be something that you contact your representative about if you didn't like that, what was going on.
What I heard, is that the line item calls it public school funding, and it's not, it's public and private school funding. So that's what I heard, and that I think is a fair delineation. If the state in their folly or wisdom has decided that that money is no longer public school money, but now it's public and private school money, then that's what we should actually be telling people.
Just those private schools that have signed up for the school choice program. We wouldn't want to throw all the private schools.
But it's
under
money
the
that
bus.
is going to private.
So
I
it
didn't
gets-
say it's all private schools. I said it's funding private schools, some private schools. It's funding private schools. So it's not just funding public schools. So I sent my kids to both public and private schools. And I never once asked my neighbors to help me pay the tuition at my private school. And that's where I stand.
Do you have an answer to your own question? Or an idea on it? Or-
If I had 100 of those magic wands that would put information about where people's tax money was going, this would not be the magic wand I would wave first. That's all I'm saying. I think this is important. I want everybody to know everything. I agree, but It's not the top priority in my mind for what we need to educate our public, push an education out to property owners about. Nor is
Everybody
bringing
remember
your
that
dog.
my name is on those bills, so whatever you decide, I'm the one that's gonna get the call.
I do want to make a motion, but I won't actually make a motion about the dog registry.
Yep, we have a motion to continue working and a second by Tanya.
What's that look like? Who's working on it?
Some of this comes in calls and emails. And it's my understanding in conversations with the school that this is something that the board may take up to work on. I don't want to speak for them or make assumptions for the school. So if Dr. Hill wants to help clarify that, I would be very open to that.
It was left on for me earlier, made me look good. I would say that right now our board is committed to two board goals, which is ensuring that 100% of our students make a minimum of 1 year's growth in 1 year's time, and that 100% of our students manage 95% attendance. So those are the two big board focuses that they have right now. As you learned, and this is not necessarily germane to this conversation, and we've all said that, they voted last week to go to operational referendum, and that will be their major focus until November 3rd. I will bring this to their attention. I did share with them this morning that I was coming this evening, and I think that will be up to them if they want to take that conversation on.
Do we want to work on a resolution?
I'm sorry, but do we need to vote on what we already?
You put forward a motion in a second,
Yeah.
but Steve asked a question of what are we working on or doing? Sorry, clarify.
No, who's doing the work? You say we, but like, so we talked in this greater sense of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there's going to be a subcommittee made up of members of this body plus other members, I guess I'm not going to be on that board. I don't have any more time with all the other boards I'm on to do something that is just to inform and doesn't change ultimately anything, right? Like, the money's still going to come out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it's,
I mean, I follow
think
what
you're-
you're saying.
we're doing
Cost
a lot of
little
work
bit.
to nothing. And I'm not saying education's not,
No, I understand. I think I hear that you're saying like, we don't have the magic wand
bingo.
to make this possible for everybody to know tomorrow. We're working within systems that we learned from Karen and the county of what is possible to put on a tax bill, what's put in there. We have only so many hours in a day to do the work of using tax dollars to take care of, maintain, and do projects for public goods across the city. Unfortunately, decisions that are made at other levels of government are making it challenging for some of our public goods or most of our public goods to remain well-resourced. And that is not public information at this time. So what we can do at a local level is to make that transparent and then tell that message out to say we need this to resource our community the way we want to resource it, right? If we want to have choices, how do we want to do it? If we want to have you know, I think the discourse of this across the city with partners is an important thing. And I hear the motion and second to work on it. And I think we don't yet know because we are coming to the table in support of a community conversation that will be on a ballot in November.
I would prefer that if this does move forward, that we have, that if somebody has a resolution that they actually want to bring forward for us to vote on, that's what happens next.
Okay.
I kind of feel like rescinding my second only because I don't think this body gathers together to do the work you're talking about happens outside of council. And then a resolution or a proposal is brought to council. So while I still want to move forward with this, I'm not sure this body needs to necessarily vote on it. I think that anybody at any time can put on the agenda an actual proposal to vote on, and that if there's folks who want to work on that outside of that, I'm just not convinced we need to decide or appoint that tonight.
So
does that make sense?
Totally.
One of the aye.
So here's some insight is that if let's say Seth was going to work on this tomorrow. In order to do so, he would have to pick up the phone and call Lori to get information. So now
We're doing this work in some of the committees that we're working, like housing
Yep.
board. That's what we're doing. We're doing the work in the committee.
Yep.
And then we sometimes have to ask Lori questions, and then we bring a proposal to council.
Is there a committee that this belongs in?
Why don't we just vote on it so we can move on? We spent a lot of time on this.
So you're in favor of it being worked on?
I don't care anymore at the moment. I think we need to move on. No offense, I'm sorry.
No, I just think,
I think the public needs to know, but I agree with Trina.
so how do they know?
Tanya makes good points.
How do they know? That's the question.
Well,
Can we call the question? Can we call the question?
Well, I know you have a
Is it a
meeting
roll call?
tonight. No,
All in favor? Roll call?
You want a roll call? I can do a roll call, but it's not.
Let's do a roll call.
Steve,
No.
Beth,
No.
AJ,
No.
Becker King,
No.
Kyle,
No.
Spade,
no,
Cindy,
no,
Don,
no.
Tanya.
No.
Okay, that means they don't want to continue with this.
All right.
Well, that means we don't want to continue with this
This motion.
motion. If somebody wants to bring a resolution forward, that this did not stop that. Thank you. Resolution.
All right. We'll move on. So item 17, presentation on resolution opposing the Maribel 765 KV project, No 765 Line Inc., and the Coalition Against Maribel 765 Inc. So again, to keep this in boundaries, there is a resolution that will be coming up as item 19, whether or not the city wants to take that up opposing this project. So to hear about this project, Michael Brown and Tim Woodhouse are going to share a short presentation ahead of the final period for public comment.
Do I give my name again? Okay. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead and tell which organization you're with.
Yes, my name is Michael Brown, and I am a board member, treasurer, and media lead for No 765 Line Inc. And this is
My name's Tim Woodhouse from Genoa. I'm the leader of the Coalition Against Maribel 765. We're a group of directly impacted landowners, about 70 families.
So I don't know how well acquainted everyone is with the 765 Maribel project lines. You may have seen signs, you may have seen me, you may have seen a number of things around town and throughout the southern Wisconsin region. I think the thing I really wanted to open up with today is, why is this happening? And then also explain what exactly is happening. These are the biggest power lines ever proposed in Wisconsin. And the order of the presentation today is we're going to look at the machine itself, the money, the stakes, and then the fight and what's happening out there in the world. So we can move on to the next one. 765 kilovolts. That is a lot. It is more than we've ever seen. If you're familiar with the drive from Madison out to like Spring Green, is it 14, I think? Those towers that have gone up, those are 345 kilovolt towers. So we haven't seen anything that carries that load in Wisconsin. And the Maribel project is the project that is being proposed right now to carry those lines. Next one. These are tall towers, really, really, really oppressively tall towers, roughly 200 feet, and a design that we really haven't seen before. This proposed towers, like I said, they're 200 feet, but they carry 765 kilovolts, but they're also designed to carry additional loads off the side. So they are, I think this is the thing that catches most people off guard. It's like, oh, wow. We see electric lines all over the place. Transmission, it is what it is. But this is enormous. And the enormity of the project itself, the towers itself, is one thing. I would encourage everybody to think through what it takes to actually construct and build something like that. When you put steel and concrete in the ground, what is that going to do? How does that actually come about? That comes by way of trucks and trucks on roads. And there's a lot that goes into this. I'm not going to go into all this today because there are many facets to the issue. And the website that we've developed is a really great resource to understand everything at play. But I want to start here. Towers are huge. Towers weigh a lot. Towers have a lot of wear and tear on your roads when they come through. It's 5 times the voltage, or 5 times the power, double the voltage. And one thing that I have heard in the multiple opposition resolutions and conversation around those opposition resolutions is the safety elements involved in building something like this. When something goes wrong with power like this, are municipalities equipped to handle emergencies when they happen? Are local EMTs, are they equipped to handle this? So something else to think about. This is the biggest shock that I've seen in my learning journey of this project, is that Wisconsin's been great about electricity use. For the past 20 years, it's been on a decline, 4%. That's not 4% annual, that's 4% overall over the last 20 years. And this has come by way of, focus on energy programs, people putting on their own solar panels. There's a lot of reasons that this has been happening. And so you might ask yourself, why is this, if we've been on a decline of energy use, then why is this being proposed? So we can go forward to the next one here. That's okay. So keep that in mind. If you don't know how energy projects are managed, proposed, who does the permit issuing and who does the building, these are the three players to understand. MISO or MISO, depends on who you talk to. This is the 15 state body that says, hey, this is how we want transmission to happen throughout the region. And they are the organization that came through a while ago and said, hey, we're going to improve the grid in this way, and we're going to ask for more transmission to be built. And the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin is the ones who say, hey, developers, come in. We will look at your bids and then award those bids to various developers. So when you think about how the projects come about, this can be very, very confusing. It was to me when I first started learning about all this, but those are the three entities to really think about. So in 2022, the build out known as the tranche was a $10 billion build out that got revised 2 years later to be a $22 billion build out. Again, this is across the 15 state region. And two of the lines that we're looking at right now are the 765 kilovolt lines coming through southern Wisconsin. Right now in the news, you'll hear about the Maribel line, which is going from Genoa, Tim's area, all the way down to Bell Center. And then when you hear about what's called the Becky or BECI line, that's the one that goes from Bell Center, wraps up around Madison and goes down to the Beloit area. So those are the big ones that we're looking at right now. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Maybe you're going to answer this, but how far apart are these? So like how many of these towers are we talking about that are going to be between Genoa and?
I think I think they're 800 feet.
It depends on, it depends on the geography as far as how much, where those placements will be. So we've been told, on a straight level stretch, roughly 3 current structures would be replaced by 1 tower. But then if you're familiar with, well, any of the area around here, you've got some pretty traverse. So I don't think that they know, and they certainly haven't told us yet.
I'm just thinking how many towers we're really talking about.
Yeah.
Quite a few. Yeah, so this is the breakdown of the Maribel and the Becky lines, and they are operating on a different pace, a different program. They're permitted differently, and right now the important thing to know is that the PSC has not issued a docket or handed out the starting of a permit for either of these projects. The Maribel line has been in development for a while now. Landowners have been made aware of what's happening, and coalitions have formed. People are being made aware, and that is really the one here that has been of most concern to Vernon County. And then separately, this Becky line, that is a separate topic, and that one is accelerating at a pace that we haven't seen transmission line projects develop before. Fun fact, they issued mailers to landowners, and we're expecting within a month for landowners to open up their mail, attend an open house, and issue their comments. And then after that, the developer would then go in and make some revisions in a back room somewhere. But typically these processes take much longer than that. So we can move on from this slide. Thank you. So earlier I said 4% reduction in electricity in demand. Why is this happening now? The forecast all of a sudden flipped and said, guess what? We're expecting a 40% increase in demand. And that 40% increase, roughly 72% of that increase in Wisconsin can be attributed to three data centers specifically. I just attended a couple open houses that there's breakdown of all of these charts and graphs, and there's a fair amount of smoke and mirrors going on in describing what the load is and conflating peak demand with constant demand. I think everyone that I've spoken to has concerns around, well, if this 40% increase it is there and you're anticipating more data centers coming on the path, what happens if those data centers don't materialize? Why would we need this massive transmission project if that doesn't actually happen? And if they don't happen, then we're stuck with some very large obtrusive towers and the cost that goes along with it. One particularly concerning issue is that you will hear a developer claim that there is for every $1.80 to $3.50 spent, for every $1 spent, there's roughly $1.80 to $3.50 in benefits. But the way this organization works, MISO, there is an individual named David Patton. He's basically the internal watchdog. And he does checks and balances. He runs the math. He says, well, if you had considered these things, maybe your math is not accurate. And he's a very vocal opponent to this specific fact. And he is standing in front of MISO saying, no, for every dollar you spend, we're actually only going to see 40 cents or less benefit towards this project. And that in and of itself doesn't sound, okay, great, somebody's losing money on the project, but who's losing money on the project? And we'll get to that here in the next slide. Oh, we won't get to that in the next slide. Sorry. No, that's okay. We'll change the narrative here. The three reasons that I would like to see Viroqua pay attention to this is that around us, more than 20 resolutions, opposition resolutions have been passed within Crawford, within Vernon. And these are communities standing up and saying, we don't want these projects for various reasons. So our neighbors within our county, within our community are saying, we don't want this. And this is an opportunity for Viroqua to stand up and say, as the county seat, Vernon County itself has already entered an opposition. This is a chance to join in and say, we agree, we don't want to see this. Geographically, I say, the ridge, while there is not a tower necessarily proposed to come through here, I'm using this ridge as like the sort of the metaphor for like what happens upstream really is going downstream to our neighbors. So we have a chance to be leaders here. Organic farms as well. We have 230 in Vernon County. And when lines like this go up, these are, I hear from landowners almost every day. I've been taking a call from a woman near Poinette. She runs a strawberry farm that she's been cultivating for decades now. And she's just distraught because this line is proposed to go directly over her strawberry farm. And when they come in with the towers and the lines, that's an easement that they have the ability to say, we're going to maintain this line in the way that's appropriate to us, and they can destroy her organic soil. Then there's not a whole lot she can do about it. So many reasons that we as a community should be concerned about this. And we can go on to the next slide here. Thank you, Sarah. This one, I mean, I asked Tim to come here. We've been involved in many conversations today, but I think this one is most appropriate for Tim to speak to.
Well, I should have. So I always got a caveat that I'm the leader of the group, so I got to keep my personal opinions to myself. But I work for the Genoa Township, so I understand the role of government, the role of eminent domain. And I'd like to make note that our group is funded privately up until now, taking donations. We've taken the step of retaining an attorney. We've got a court date in Vernon County that speaks to the use of eminent domain in a project such as this. It's massive. Is it needed? That's going to be debated in the court system with the various lawyers. So I'll just leave that up to your own. We feel that the use of eminent domain on our farms isn't appropriate. So, and I should say farms are properties, homes We've got a lot of different
Can,
vacant landowners.
can you give a little bit of detail on what eminent domain is used for? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
So, in generally speaking, eminent domain is used for the public good. And I think that's why this issue has spilled over into the public forums. You might be sitting here thinking, why is this the city council's? But I think this has opened a huge can of worms as far as what is the appropriate use of eminent domain in situations such as this. If it's for a data center, and our group doesn't want to get into this whole, our premise is the last 20 years, our rates or our usage has declined 4%, stayed around that. Now, if this thing gets built, everybody in this room will be required to pay for that. And I think that's the larger issue that we're trying to shed some light on. I'm not here to cry a sob story about our members and our individual, although we are very concerned. We're directly impacted, and then we would be stuck paying for this. But I think the larger community would see that, the use of eminent domain on projects such as these will be required to pay for.
Do we get anything from that payment?
So that's also up for debate. And I think the community outreaches, like the town of Genoa, they've sat through the presentations, utility tax, you could get into all these different various things. They have not seen any benefit, therefore their opposition to the proposal. I think Vernon County, with the presentation and their thoughts, they haven't seen any benefit to the county. I can't speak for the state. I know as members of the coalition, there's no benefit to us on the use of eminent domain.
Thank you.
And I just want to iterate here on when a company comes in and uses eminent domain for the quote unquote public good, what's happening is they're building the transmission line, and then the cost of that project is actually going back and being paid for by the ratepayers as a whole. So anybody who gets an electricity bill is paying for these projects, and that is at the return of roughly 10% per year for the life of the project. And sometimes that's 20 years, sometimes that's up to 60 years. So 10% per year for the foreseeable future is being paid back to the company that developed the project by you and you and you and me and all of us. And many of us are looking around saying, we didn't need the project in the first place. Why are you overdeveloping these lines? So keep that in mind as we think about standing up in solidarity and saying, we don't need these projects. Next slide, please. And these are just an explanation of the people and the organizations that are doing some of this work. CAM 765, that is a Coalition Against Maribel, that is Tim. No 765 line, I represent that group here today. We have a lot going on right now, especially with the launch of the Becky Project, and then new coalitions are forming. And you will continue to see this issue in the news. Next slide, please. So, Vernon County has passed its resolution opposing the line back in March, and a number of other towns have these opposition resolutions on the books, and many others are pursuing these right now. And so I encourage Viroqua to consider joining the ranks. And I think that's the last slide. Oh, nope. Here's some action you can take. Of course, I'd be an awful nonprofit member here if I didn't say here's the actions we can take. This project is being billed as a done deal by any developer that you speak with. We see it as not a done deal. So join us and please consider passing a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll open up item 18, final period for public comment on the presentation from 17 that we just heard of. If anybody wants to come forward with public comment on this, either online or in person, please do so. Sarah, do we have anyone online?
There's a few people online. I don't see them unmuting, but that would be what you do. You'd unmute or put your hand up. It's one of the actions you can do through Zoom. I don't see anything.
Okay. All right, we do not have anybody. So we'll move on to item 19, discussion with possible action on a resolution opposing the Maribel 765 KV project. And we have that resolution drafted. This has gone to George and Stephanie. This is a resolution similar to what has been put in front of others on the list, Vernon County, et cetera, and has been modified to be more clearly related and specifically related to why the city of Viroqua would be interested in passing this.
I make a motion, we pass the resolution opposing Maribel 765 KV project.
We've got a motion by Cindy,
I'll second it.
Todd Kirking the second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 20, payment of the bills.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Seth,
Aye.
AJ,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Kyle,
Aye.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Tanya, and Steve.
Aye.
Before we make a motion to adjourn, I just want to point out that the differences between these things that we just talked about is that there's been a lot of time put into organizing and getting to a resolution to educate people like us. If we believe in the aha moment we all just had about where our public dollars are going, which is not to public schools fully as it is shown on a tax bill, we need to care enough to say that we want to approve and recognize that City Hall staff are already working on this because people are calling. Because there is a referendum for our schools and there's declining enrollment and challenges from places we can't control, that I encourage us all to take control of what we can do. And I am saying this out of frustration, however, also encouragement that we focus on what we can do here together. And that if we want to see a resolution, I hope that people will know that I want to work on that. And if someone wants to work on that with me, I will volunteer my time towards that in the name of public service. Because I believe in transparency and in dollars going to places where accountability is upheld and transparency follows that money. And I just want to make that a clear statement as we close this out. So thank you for being participatory in a long meeting and taking on things that I'm sorry that we all collectively have to deal with at this level because they're not being legislated on in a way that they need to be. So thank you for bearing with. And if anybody wants to make a motion for adjournment, please do so.
Steve, I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned.